Today, what I want to talk about is silence. I started off wanting to talk about patience, and then I realized really that the root of what I wanted us to focus on in our meditation today was silence, maintaining that inner silence, that inner spaciousness that brings us peace, and using that same energy when possible to maintain silence around us. And silence is not, the way I'm thinking about it, is not simply the absence of speaking. It's the absence of that chaos and kind of tumult in our lives that we sometimes take for granted as being necessary in our lives. For example, I lose my inner silence when I spend too much time on social media, or when I spend too much time wasting time reading the news or having conversations that are not
meaningless.
Meaningless conversations. There you go. That's a good word. But silence is a quality, and it's a living spaciousness that enables us to deepen our spiritual awakening and continue to connect with that silence and that peace that is at our center. So what I want to sit with today is just the powerful energy and the vitality of silence. It is not a void. It is alive, and it is purposeful, and it is vibrant, and it is nourishing. And I just invite us today to sit in that awareness and do what we can to promote that today. Father Thomas Keating, who was one of the advocates of the contemplative tradition in the Christian tradition, says, "Silence is the language God speaks, and everything else is a bad translation." Richard Rohr writes, "Silence has a life of its own. It is not just that which is around words and underneath images and events. It is a being in itself to which we can relate and become intimately familiar. Philosophically, we would say being is that foundational quality which precedes all other attributes. Silence is at the very foundation of all reality, naked being, if you will. When we connect with silence as a living primordial presence, we can then see all other things and experience them deeply inside that container. Silence is not just an absence, but a primal presence. We must find a way to return to this place, live in this place, abide in this place of inner silence. Thomas Merton wrote, "In silence, God ceases to be an object and becomes an experience." I love that. Let me read that again. Yeah. In silence, God ceases to be an object and becomes an experience. So as we get ready for our meditation, I'm not going to play music today because I'm going to invite us just to sit and experience the energy of silence. And even if there are noises around you, which I'm assuming there must be because we all are living in the world, try to let your awareness rest on that inner silence and that formlessness, that spaciousness that is at your center. So I invite you to just sit up in your chair, whatever you're sitting on, your chair, your couch, your bed, whatever, and just straighten your spine if you can. Take a deep breath in all the way down to your belly. If you're so inclined, close your eyes, just gently. Deep breath in all the way down to your belly, and just gently release. Let go of the energy of doing and just rest in the awareness of being, the vastness, the spaciousness, the formlessness of simply being. As you take a deep, peaceful breath in all the way down to your belly and gently release. I breathe in peace. I gently release. I breathe in peace. I gently release. As you continue to breathe, feel the living quality of the silence surrounding you. Rest in awareness of the peace, the formlessness, the silence at your center. Rest in this living, spacious, life-giving silence. Feel its life, its vitality, its presence surrounding all things, nourishing and animating all things. Rest in awareness of this deep silence. So as we prepare to come out of our meditation, I invite you to take a couple deep breaths, smile, stretch, and just remember we can maintain that inner spaciousness, whatever we're doing. The Stoics say that it's possible to carry our own solitude around with us wherever we are. And that's one of the goals that we work toward with our practices, is to be able to maintain that center and that peace no matter what is going on around us. Because sometimes we can't control the noise around us, but we can do all we can to more successfully control the noise within. So I want to read an excerpt from Thomas Merton, that Christian contemplative, he's writing about contemplatives and silence. He writes, "The true contemplative is not one who prepares his mind for a particular message that he wants or expects to hear, but is one who remains simply empty, because he knows that he can never expect to anticipate the words that will transform his darkness into light. He does not even anticipate a special kind of transformation. He does not demand light instead of darkness. He waits on the word of God in silence. And when he is answered, it is not so much by a word that bursts into his silence. It is by his silence itself, suddenly, inexplicably revealing itself to him as a word of great power, full of the voice of God." What he's talking about there is just the power of silence being its own message, being its own living being. And sometimes we unmute people. Sometimes we run away from silence because we think it's boring or because we want to fill our minds with something else. But passages like this are an invitation to just be in the silence and let it lift you up and nourish you, and realize that it is a life-giving moment, a life-giving experience. And we lose so much when we run from it and just decide to fill our days or fill our minds with other stuff. So today is an invitation to just experience that silence. Maybe when you feel like saying something, don't. Sit and listen to somebody, or sit and listen to music, or just sit in silence. It is such a surprising experience. It's such a rich experience. So that's what I encourage us to think about today. Thank you for joining us on today's morning meditation. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you next time.